Dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack and flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yup, what's good, original crew, man? We're back. 8 most disturbing things discovered in the forest. Have you ever been in the forest? I know what you're talking about. Before you ain't even gotta speak on it. You ain't gotta speak on it. I know what you're talking about. I shouldn't even ask that question. I've been in some too, so hey, you know what I'm saying? When you grow up where we grow up, you're gonna encounter a forest at least once.
Yeah, most definitely.
At least once in your
times.
life. You know what I'm saying?
Several times, yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. So, with that being said, have I ever discovered anything in the forest? No, I just discovered that I don't like the forest. Oh. That's about it. Like, I don't like being like, it's just icky, bro. It just feel nasty, dirty, stanky. It's just outside, just weird, bro. At times.
I feel you.
At times it can be. But hey, with that being said, before we get into it, make sure you check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go if you want to first support. All you have to do is check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's visuals,
like it with a thumbs up.
But let's go. Let's check it out. Let's see what's about. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's hop into it.
James Schoeffler was a U.S. Forest Service officer in Utah. In April of 2012, he was conducting a routine patrol of a popular scenic hiking trail deep in the forest. He was about halfway through his walk when he noticed a tripwire strung between 2 trees at the entrance of a small deadwood shelter along the trail. He followed the wire and was led to a ball made of rocks and sharpened sticks hanging in the air, which was set to fall when the tripwire was hit. After further inspection, another trap was found at a second entrance to the small shelter. This one was a bed of sharpened sticks placed facing upward in the ground. Again, a tripwire was set in front of it, which this time was pulled tight and would have forced a person to fall directly into the sticks. Police were called and informed of the dangerous and potentially deadly traps. Soon they would begin conducting interviews of hikers in the area within the last few days, and surprisingly, this would lead them to 2 teenagers. They would confess to setting them up, however they argued the traps were set for animals. Police would not buy this. The nature of the traps was clearly made for a person. Plus, they were set way too close to a popular hiking trail that receives a lot of traffic. More specifically, at the entrances to a small shelter, which easily would have attracted a curious child or unsuspecting tourist.
So y'all just want to go out there and catch a body. Really, you know what I'm saying? Y'all.
That's weird.
A lot of people like that, though.
Like
let's be real.
Y'all had too much time.
I don't mind.
Piss me off.
That's my sin lately.
In 2017, Ivan, a 30-year-old man from Russia, abruptly went missing on a solo hike in the Shatur district of Moscow. When he initially didn't come back, his family reported his absence to the police, and a search of the surrounding woods later commenced. But no results came from this search, and it was eventually called off with no findings whatsoever.
Damn.
Fast forward 2 years later to 2019, and a hiker in the same area called in to report the found remains of a human skeleton halfway buried under leaves. This human skeleton was later confirmed to be of Ivan. What makes the finding so disturbing, though, is what was found with the skeleton. Tied to the remains and nearby trees were multiple sets of handcuffs, locks, and chains. Ivan's tent was found close to the scene, leading police to believe he was attempting an isolated Houdini-type escape, chaining himself up and trying to free himself without any help, and that this ultimately went horribly wrong. One of his friends even later stated that this type of stunt was something he could see Ivan doing, as he would often practice survival skills in extreme conditions. But others believe Ivan was murdered, and that the crime scene was simply set up after the fact so that it would look like it was a tragic accident. Ivan's official cause of death hasn't been determined.
Pete, didn't they say they searched the area for him?
Yeah.
And then if y'all really searched the area, y'all would have had discovered the body.
Really
they didn't find the body till 2 years later. So there's no way.
And someone just stumbled upon it, actually.
But I'm saying, if y'all
Yeah,
really fully search, even a small brush, him being buried on a small brush of leaves, no, he was kidnapped, chained up somewhere, and somebody brought him back to the location after the fact. That's why I feel. But also, I say one thing for sure. I understand people want to be alone, hiking. It's a good way to clear your mind, realign back to the earth. But sometimes you try to get realigned back to the earth brings you back to the earth. And you don't, if you're going to, I always say it's best to go out as a group. Mm-hmm. Give yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah.
Not always it works, because we have seen in some of these videos, even groups are attacked. Yeah. But you're still better off going off with a group of 3 or more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It just gives you a better chance of survival. Typically, most stories we hear about when it's something going on in the forest or out in the wilderness, it's either 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. Because 2 people, you can still attack 2 people and still, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So typically we see, but it's very rare, more than 2 get attacked. You know? So 3 or more is always is a good key when you. But hey, who am I? I'm a person that will never go, so you ain't gotta listen to me. Okay. Well, you can listen to me and stay ass where you can be seen and detected at all times. But it just don't. This situation just don't make sense.
Yeah, this one, it's a little.
And even if he does the Houdini thing, he wasn't here when they were looking for him. So why would he come back?
That is true. That is true. Because if I was out there doing it, then y'all would have stumbled up. You know what I'm saying?
And y'all would have been able to save me because I didn't die immediately.
Yeah. So, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It's May of 2016. A man is walking a private forest trail in Harlan County in Kentucky. Suddenly, he sees something on the ground just slightly off the trail path. He gets closer and sees it's a trail camera. Trail cameras are waterproof outdoor cameras that are typically motion activated, with the purpose being to record wildlife. Most of them even have night vision capabilities. They're a somewhat common sight in the forest, so the man didn't give much thought to the discovery. Although, this camera didn't have any memory card or batteries inside. It looked like it was abandoned, and so the man decided to take it with him. Later, the man recalls giving the camera to a friend. When his friend put batteries in the camera, an explosion immediately went off inside of it. The trail camera was rigged with explosives that were set to go off the second batteries were installed.
Oh my gosh.
The explosion was large enough to blow off some of the man's fingers and cause injury to his stomach.
Wow.
Police launched an investigation and found another camera on the trail rigged to explode. Eventually, the cameras were traced back to a man named Mark Sawaf, who was immediately identified as a suspect. Police were granted a search warrant to his home, and there they found all the equipment used to create the explosives, along with a note that read, "Broken camera for a broken soul." Mark was taken into custody. Meanwhile, more reports of exploding cameras around the area were coming in.
Wow.
In response, police would take Mark back out into the forest and have him detail the locations of the remaining live explosive devices. But while in the forest with police, Mark would lunge at one of the officer's pistols in a last-ditch effort to get away. The physical altercation would result in Mark being fatally shot. Mark never revealed where his remaining trail cameras were before his death.
Wow.
Although, police believe there are numerous others within a 5-mile radius of those Kentucky woods, all of which just waiting to be discovered by some unfortunate person.
Wow. And one's gonna be way more deadly than just way more.
Can like a sign or something be put up? Like if
I'm sure in a situation like this, especially with it being back in 2016, I'm sure all of them probably have been found by now, possibly.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm wondering, did some after the fact were found and other people were harmed? That's all I'm.
Yeah, or they put out like information out to the newspaper and out to the news.
Hopefully, but a lot of people don't watch the news or read the newspaper. But hopefully so. I just hope no one else was harmed.
And those cameras are very popular. People buy those. Cause when I used to work at Dick's, people used to come in there and buy them a lot because they wanted. I know a lot of times when I was like selling them to people, they were gonna get them to use and put in their backyard just because it's a lot of them are motion system. Yeah. So if somebody's out there, it'll catch it then. It's not a continuing running, and so like nowadays most people got cameras and stuff. but it's running off Wi-Fi, and you gotta, so it's always draining. Those are battery operated, motion sensor, night vision, and so they give, I guess, and more camouflage.
Yeah.
So you don't see them right away. So somebody, you can catch them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of people use them for that. That's crazy though.
Very much so.
That and scary. Because you find a camera, you're gonna be like, oh, you're gonna be like, let me just put some batteries in it. You know what I'm saying? We're just out in the wilderness. You're not gonna think, let me take this apart and see if there's anything going on with it. That's just not what average person's gonna do.
And then I'll just feel awful if I find a camera and I give it to someone else. And then something happens to someone else because, like, I'm just like...
You wouldn't even been in that position if it
wasn't for me, like, being, I guess, curious.
Yeah.
Trying to figure, you know what I'm saying? But,
yeah, I feel you on that, man. Yeah. That's crazy, man.
In July of 1968, a group of women were at a picnic table near their lake house at Lake Michigan. They were playing cards together and having a good time when they were interrupted by an overbearing stench. It got so bad that the women began struggling to breathe, forcing them to cut their game short. They assumed a dead animal must have been nearby, and not knowing what else to do, they alerted their cabin's caretaker, Chauncey Bliss. Chauncey headed out to those woods, but instead of finding a dead animal, he followed the stench to another cabin he oversaw around half a mile away. He forced himself through the horrible odor closer towards the front door, but he quickly realized something was wrong. He noticed holes in the glass of the windows. He glanced inside one of them and saw a woman's remains lying on the floor. Behind her, he caught a glimpse of several others in the same manner. Horrified, Chauncey ran away and called the police.
wow.
Police arrived at the scene, and a total of 6 bodies were discovered. It was every member of the Robison family. No one had seen them in weeks, but the family had told others they were planning on a trip out of town, therefore no one questioned it. Police concluded that they had been killed at least a month earlier. Investigations into who could have done this didn't turn up much. There wasn't much evidence at the scene, and the family didn't have any known enemies. The most prominent suspect was an employee of Mr. Robison, but this man would never be tried in court. Over 50 years later, it's still unknown who's responsible for the Robison family murders.
Wow. You want me to tell you what's so alarming about that situation? How the fuck they go a whole month being dead? Nobody went and checked on the cabin. Y'all supposed to be observing.
Even if they informed people that they were going out of town.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the guy they went back and he said he normally keeps up with the cabins and check up.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
For a whole month, we never checked on.
Guess not. That's kind of weird too. I guess so. Yeah, if you want to think like that. But because
like you said earlier, with the family saying they're going out for a vacation, you just like, hey, they haven't came back yet. I guess they went on an extended vacation.
Well, yeah, that I was just thinking like no one. Well, yeah, maybe so.
That could
but they
be
would
random.
Have like a car, right?
Yeah, but still
I'm saying that car would have just been parked at the cabin the entire time. Like, no one,
or they was dropped off.
The car hasn't moved. The car's in the same position. The car's in the same spot.
But
like,
that goes back to
stuff like that.
But that goes back to somebody inspecting the cabin.
Yeah,
if nobody's inspecting the cabin, y'all would have been picked up on that odor. That odor was for so long, where it traveled far.
Yeah.
For it to travel that far, that stench over time just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. And it's in the summertime. Hot. Wood cabin. Even extra hot. Man, that's
sad. And then
for it to not to be so.
Yeah, all these years. Nothing.
No clues.
No clues.
Even now with
suspects.
You gotta also realize, I was finna say something, I was finna say, even now with our technology, but with our technology now, still doesn't equate with the way they handle crime scenes back then. They might not have looked for evidence that we would look for evidence now, especially even DNA, because
like the smallest details.
That wasn't a thing back then, so they're not looking for certain things that we would look for now. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like show we watching, he look for the minute details.
Matt Bell and a coworker were doing excavation work in the woods of Danville, Arkansas, when they came across a 32-pound old round ball in the ground. Matt thought it was an old cannonball from the Civil War and decided to take it home with him. The thing was dirty, and so he pressure washed the ball to try and clean it up a bit. While he was drying it on his counter, he snapped some pictures of it. The next day, he went to a Civil War museum to verify the object's authenticity. This is where he was informed that it wasn't a cannonball at all, rather a Civil War-era pressure-activated landmine that was still active. Matt was forced to take the explosive back home, where he called police. 20 homes in the nearby area were evacuated, and a bomb squad was called in. The explosive was carefully taken to a landfill where it was safely set off. Matt recalls his coworker throwing the mine to him out of a ditch when they first found it. That, along with multiple car rides and being pressure washed, Matt is extremely lucky the landmine didn't explode on him.
Damn.
What you said, baby.
What the? Absolutely.
Honey, baby,
But
like...
peep this though. Peep this. We do live down south. Imagine the amount of landmines that probably is still out there. That's Arkansas. I didn't even think they really were battling like that in Arkansas.
I'm pretty sure it's a lot over, where we at?
Yeah.
You know I'm pointing to.
But all around here,
But
because this was a battle
But I'm
area.
just saying, like,
back home we got hella battlefields.
Yeah. Like,
Damn.
just imagine. Stuff just buried, you know.
That's scary, bro.
That's crazy. Good thing, baby.
Yeah, with all that.
And then you pressure washed it, then you took it
for
to
them
somewhere.
to be able to set it off. It was 100% active.
Yeah,
it was
still active.
I guess it's
after
just
all of that.
I just guess over time it just ain't that sensitive, and for it not to have exploded by now wasn't that sensitive. That's crazy, man.
In July of 2016, a construction worker was doing routine maintenance on the right lane of a section of road on Interstate 985 located in Georgia. At one point during his shift, the man had to relieve himself, and so he started walking into the forest just next to him. He got about 80 yards in when he noticed a large object on the ground. As he got closer, he realized it was a suitcase. Curious, he zipped it open. Inside, he saw a human skull. Immediately, the man ran back to the highway and told his supervisor, who then told the police. When they arrived, the man showed them to the suitcase. A full set of bones were discovered along with the skull.
Wow.
Later analysis would reveal them to be of a woman, most likely in her 20s or 30s at the time of death. It's assumed she died around 6 months before the discovery. Fast forward to 2019, and police now believe they've identified the woman as Jessica Mancini from Chattanooga, Tennessee. She was originally reported missing by her mother back before the suitcase's discovery. However, how she died, or who is responsible, are both still unknown to this day.
Wow, that's sad. That always breaks my heart.
With that being a busy highway, anybody could just pulled over
on
real
the
quick.
side, took that suitcase.
Ain't that far off the interstate.
It wasn't that far. They
Didn't
obviously
go that
they
far.
was like maybe like in a hurry to hurry up and get rid, you know.
Yeah. In the middle of the night, I just pull over with my blinkers
real
on.
quick.
Let me like make sure ain't nobody paying attention. Let me get this suitcase. Let me walk it off
Just
into
walking just a little bit
off, and then come back. Ain't
and
nobody
it's
gonna pull
gone.
over.
Nothing.
Honestly, luckily she was found when she was found. Because if he didn't want to go for a piss, she wouldn't been found.
For a little tinkle. Yeah.
You know.
She would have never. Yeah. Unless somebody else just discovered her probably years and years, like you know, telling,
years
or maybe another work, like you don't know how long it would have took for someone to possibly discover her if he didn't decide to like walk where he walked at, or for them to be working right there in that area, in front of that area.
And honestly, I don't think her case will ever be solved.
9 times out of 10.
Just
that's
how
sad. That's
like,
heartbreaking. Yeah.
It's a possibility.
In 1986, 19-year-old Christopher Knight vanished from his home in Maine to live in the woods for no apparent reason. For food, Christopher would steal from dozens of different cottages and camps around the area. During his break-ins, he would also take things like clothing, camping gear, propane tanks, batteries, and other stuff. People in the area were quickly made aware of his presence. Some even started intentionally setting out supplies for the guy just so he wouldn't break into their homes during the night. But even though his means of living were pretty well known in the area, if one thing was certain, he did not want to be found. Christopher went to extreme lengths to cover his tracks. For example, he would opt to never start a fire so that the smoke wouldn't reveal his camp's position in the woods. Winters would get extremely cold at around 10 degrees Fahrenheit, but still Christopher didn't start a fire, instead opting to cover himself in multiple sleeping bags. But as the years passed and security cameras became more common, Christopher's break-ins would eventually start showing up on security camera footage. Finally, 27 years after he left his home in Maine, he unknowingly tripped a surveillance sensor while routinely stealing food from a camp. Police were alerted and showed up to the scene. Christopher was still there, and the first human contact he had in years would be him being arrested. Police had finally found and caught the man responsible for thousands of burglaries in the area. Eventually, Christopher would show police his camp. It was filled with decades worth of stolen goods.
Wow.
Christopher was ultimately given 7 months in jail and 3 years probation.
How does one like that even come back into society? Because even 3 months probation, you have to have a place of living. So you have to have a physical address or physical location. Can't say, hey, I'm just living in the woods. And we got to have an ankle monitor on you. And you got to have a job. So how does one like that, who's never lived among society for over 20 years, just come back into society?
Good question. Pretty sure it was hard, especially since you left home and didn't want to be bothered with people. You didn't want to be seen. You didn't want to be found. You're
out of touch with society. You fail to realize society has advanced. They got cell phones. They got cameras now. They got all this stuff. That's crazy, man. Living off the grid for real.
It's April 26th, 2021. The police department in Anchorage, Alaska received a disturbing phone call. The caller reports a freezer in the forest, found buried halfway into the ground. Inside of it, a body. Police rush out to the scene, and from the highway are led deep into the woods where the freezer was once again located. They opened it and were able to confirm the caller's claims. A few months later, police released more information about the finding. The man inside the freezer was 67-year-old Michael Tiefteller, who had lived nearby. Police were unable to identify how he was killed. It's also unknown when he was killed. He lived an isolated life. The last time he was known to be alive was 3 years prior in 2018, so it really could have been anywhere in that time frame. Whoever did this hasn't been found, and with nothing to go off of, this case was classified as cold, essentially from the beginning.
That's fucked up, bro.
Yeah, that's sad. Cases like this always are like,
You
tough to hear, especially when you have nothing. You really can't determine the cause of death. You don't have any suspects. Buried. Don't really have you don't have nothing.
Nothing.
You have nothing to even start to maybe point you in some type of direction.
Only thing I thought about was maybe this is trying to figure out the serial number on it and see if we can track the serial number to possibly where the freezer was purchased. But that's if you can find a serial number on it. And that's if you can find it in some type of database. But that's still very hard to even figure out. It's very rare you figure that out. So that's sad.
Very much
and
so.
Scary altogether, because Alaska.
And then with him being the age he was,
no family.
He had no
him.
family, no kids, nothing.
True.
I mean, I don't know.
True. I get where you're going, because you why haven't his family reported him?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if they have or not. If he has, maybe they just. I don't know. Everyone's dynamic is different. Maybe he didn't have family, or maybe they just didn't talk to him, or maybe the last time they talked to him was the 3 years ago when they know him to be alive, and maybe they have been searching for him this entire time. Who knows? I don't know.
That's true, man.
But it's sad, though.
Yeah. Y'all spam us up in the comments, man. Please let us know y'all thoughts and opinions about it in the comments. But as always, y'all know how it go, man. I do go by the name DJ Kid. This is. We are. We are.
Go and get it. Ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Get me run away from my pride.